It's all happening here. So welcome, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. We have a very cool session this afternoon planned for you. So Ayanda Khumalo, I will read her bio and then tell you a little bit about her from personal experience. Ayanda was born and raised in Soweto, South Africa. Over the past decade, she has worked for Education First, Bizzpro, SAPICS and Santova Logistics. With a constant innate hunger for growth, speaking knowledge and public speaking engagement on a global scale, she left South Africa to work in China. There always was a joke in the office when Ayanda decided to leave for China. She imported various goods and products from there and now was exporting herself. At 28, Ayanda decided to go to a foreign country, and it was only supposed to be for a year. This webinar is a journey about a bold young South African professional and the lessons and learnings thus far. Ayanda's favorite quote and lesson number one: education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And that's by Nelson Mandela. So Ayanda left us to go to China and to teach. And we often see fantastic photos of her floating around doing all sorts of exciting things. And I had the privilege of working with Ayanda in two different roles, one at Bizzpro and one with SAPICS, as did many of the other SAPICS team. And she was a great team member. She did a sterling job, and we were very sorry to see her go. But, you know, everybody has to follow their dreams and their passions. So obviously we were in support of that, and we are so excited to have her here with us today to share more about her experience in China, what she's up to now, because there are some more studies on the cards I see. Yeah, and the life of a young professional. So thank you, Ayanda, and take it away. It's all yours.
Thank you very much, Tonya. I will admit I am nervous, and thank you very much to everyone for being here. I am going to share my screen. Okay, there we go. And how do I make, okay, I'm gonna try and make this full. There we go. Alrighty, there we go. So I left South Africa in 2018, and I was supposed to be gone just for a year. And a year has now turned into me being in my third year, and I'm based in Shanghai, which, according to, I think it was Forbes list, is one of the most expensive cities in the world at the moment. So I'm really looking forward to coming back to South Africa because it's really expensive here. But nonetheless, there's so many opportunities that are being exposed to me. And I always say that home is where the heart is. So at the end of the day, I am making my roads back home. And today I'm just going to be speaking about making happily ever after career, because this is something that for me is one of the things that I live by and I try and do. And today's presentation, I really just want to mostly inspire, and you know, if there's things that you had been thinking about or things that you had forgotten, I'm hoping that this will be a reminder of those. Oh, okay, let me stop playing with my keyboard. I'm hoping this will be a reminder for those things, so that whatever it is that you've been thinking about doing or contemplating on doing, you're inspired to do it still. And if you are doing something, that you keep the momentum going. So as Tonya mentioned, I was born in Soweto. I spent a lot of my life in Joburg South, and I graduated from Wits University. My majors were political studies and international relations, because initially when I started studying, I wanted to become a diplomat. In my second year of study, that's when fees must fall started rising up, and there was just a lot of things happening in terms of the political landscape. And one of the things, I remember I went to a talk, they said, whatever's happening in the country, as a diplomat, you need to stand with your country and support it. And I can sometimes be a very opinionated person. So I thought maybe being a diplomat is not the way to go. And then, it was finding a new career path. And I still sometimes say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I definitely know I want to be happy. And I'll start unpacking this into my professional journey and how I try and make this a goal and a reality. So my first job, I started in university working at a perfume shop, as you do as a student. But before that, I've always been a volunteer. And this is something I did also when I came into China, where I was volunteering for the hearing school. So it was a school for kids who have hearing aids, and I did that part-time on my days off, but volunteering has always been very close to my heart. It's also for me a place where I've been able to learn, and with no expectation of getting a salary or anything in return. And one of my fondest memories was when I was really a teen, 15, 16, and I used to go with my aunt to the different homes that she used to work, and because she had a not-for-profit organization. And one of my fondest memories was always going with her and just coming with my books and sitting down with the kids and reading them a story. And one of the things about me, I enjoyed reading, watching Netflix, and trying new outdoor activities. So I'm quite a boring person, but not really. So I said when for me is education is, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And that is a quote by Nelson Mandela. And for me, one of my belief is that learning and education is not just in the classroom. It's people you interact with, it's it's webinars that you are tuned into, that you are tuned into, it's programs that you are tuned into. So education for me is not just old textbook style, it's everything and anything around you if you take the opportunity to just learn and engage with your environment, whatever it is. And this is something I've used a lot in my career as a young, and as I keep on still using, since I'm very, very far from retirement. But this is one of the most key lessons for me, is to try and learn, and also remember that learning is a process. Also with learning, there's unlearning and relearning. And that's why with education and exposure, you are able to change and hone your mindset to be able to be the best version of yourself. This is your network determines your net worth. And this is something I used to say a lot at SAPICS when I still worked there, because we played around with so many slogans, your supply chain network. If a lot of people have been with SAPICS for a long time, you remember that slogan. And that was always when I spoke to people and convincing students or just people to become, because I was the membership secretary, just convincing people, I'd always be like, your network determines your network. And this lays true for me. And I just want to take us back to why I believe in this. So when I graduated from university, I was unemployed, and my graduation day was not a festival or a fabulous day for me. The only picture that I have from my graduation hangs in my mother's sitting room. And that is the picture that is taken. And my mom was like, I want it. And I was like,
Okay. I think we have a little bit of a technical problem here. Ayanda, we can't hear you on our side. I don't know if you can hear us. Maybe you want to go out and come back in again, because the sound's gone completely. I also can't see you anymore. The challenges of Wi-Fi from around the world.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, you're back.
I am trying to reconnect. Let me see. Wait, can I hear you here or there?
We can see and hear you now.
Okay. Tonya, can you hear me? Okay. Where did I? Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. Where did you last hear me? Now we're testing if you're listening.
I was listening to such bad memory. We were talking about network. We were really talking about the network stuff before you disappeared. And I think there's quite a bit that we missed out on.
I think the last we heard, in fact, the last I recall was the picture that your mum had in her sitting room.
Okay. Wow, I said so much after that. Okay. All right. So picture mom's sitting room. So with that story, I was basically sharing that it wasn't a joyous day for me, and it was more of a joyous day for my family. It wasn't a joyous day for me because I was unemployed and graduating, and I had no prospects at that moment. And so with that being said, one of the things that I have done throughout since I was young was volunteer. And at varsity, I was a volunteer for the International Human Rights Exchange Program. And basically they brought kids from overseas into South Africa, and then they would have local students who would be their volunteer mentors. And I was invited back after I graduated to just have a day with the new people that were being orientated into a program. And I'd met a friend, now a very good friend, but then we were just classmates. And we were having a conversation about how I'm not working. And she told me that her sister, where she works, they're hiring English teachers and it's working online, and I should send my CV, and did that. got an interview, and started working online at Education First. So what I was saying with that is your network really does determine your net worth, because the people that you meet online or offline are contributing, and you are also contributing something to them. So my next question was, who have you met this week, online or offline? Since a lot of us, well, here it's offline most of the time now, but I know in other places, and especially in South Africa, a lot of people are still working online. So who have you met online or offline that has contributed to your thinking, and how have you contributed to theirs? And flip, who have you contributed to, and how have you contributed to theirs? What seeds are you planting, and what seeds are you watering? And I feel like life is always a dance where you always need to be plowing, growing a seed and watering a seed to grow. And sometimes that is people, and that is people in your network. Right. Let's try and see if we can flip to the next slide. All right. Okay, there we go. Another lesson for me that I really believe in is persevere until something as well. This for me also came from my religious background, and I just flipped it for my career. And persevere until something happens. Education First. One of the things, you would always have the uncertainty of whether the reasons for renewal were very, so it was always a thing. I think I should look at other opportunities. And that's when I started again sending CVs after CVs after CVs after CVs. And once I had sent a lot of CVs out and realized I'm not getting any responses back, I remember you tried this and it didn't work. So what I did was I made a list of companies, and I targeted small companies that did training, because one of the things that I knew that I loved doing, it was teaching. And I loved working with people, and I loved facilitating and building relationships with people. So for me, it was a targeted look at 5 to 10 companies, list them, write them down. As long as they're in Gauteng, contact them. And I started sending CVs to those targeted companies. And then I got onto the phone and I called, did you get my CV? Did you get my CV? Did you get my CV? And you get a lot of rejections. And eventually I got onto a call, and this was with Bizzpro. And the lady who was doing HR then was like, we're not looking for anyone at the moment. And I just said, can I please come and talk? Meet me and let me have, because I'm looking for work experience. Let me just come and have an interview, you know, like maybe you're wasting your time, maybe I'm, you know, but I won't, because then I'll have an experience of what is expected, what questions are asked in an interview. I'll have that. And they agreed. And after the interview, they were like, we're not going to pay you a full salary, but we can pay for your transport, because I was willing to work for free. And I'm on LinkedIn, and sometimes I see people post messages and say, please share my message and hopefully I get a job. I feel like 7, 6, I'm not really that old, but 7, 8 years ago, that wasn't, we really couldn't do that on LinkedIn, or we didn't do that on LinkedIn. And it was for me one of those things where I was at a point where I wasn't happy and I wanted to just do something different. And that's why I called, targeted calling, stalking, but it's not stalking. stalking people until we get an opportunity to meet with you, because sometimes I feel like your CV doesn't sell you well, or your LinkedIn profile doesn't sell you well, or it oversells you and people think that they can't afford you. But once people have that one-on-one conversation with you, they are able to determine, are you a good fit or are you not a good fit for our company? And you can also make that decision. Is this a good place for me, or is this not a good place for me? So fast forward, I started working at Bizzpro, now Bizzco, as an intern. And while I was on my probation, I was offered a full-time job. That was going in. And while I was still doing that, because I was an intern there, I still taught English. So Mondays to Fridays, I would be at my internship. Saturday and Sunday, I would be teaching English online. And sometimes I feel like when you graduate, you are sold this beautiful dream. And sometimes it's not. For some people it is, for some people it's not. I feel like it's very important to get out of your comfort zone. And if it means working twice as hard as other people, then do that for your career and your path, and see how it goes. So fast forward, I worked at Bizzpro for a couple of years. I grew a lot in that position. I was networking. I was able to learn more about logistics, supply chain management. And for me also, I was seeing people do trainings, and I knew at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to go for. So I also need to have a good industry knowledge. And that was, for me, being at the back end of watching everyone do stuff was a really good experience for me. Talking about your network determines your net worth. Through my network, I connect with SAPICS, and the SAPICS opportunity comes through. When I was at Bizzpro, I was already the project coordinator. When I was starting at SAPICS, I would be reception as well as the membership secretary. Everyone in my circle was like, no, don't do it. It's a demotion for you. You should be going higher. You're starting yourself backwards. And if there's something that I've always done, I feel throughout in reflection of my career, I'm always willing to start back. But because I know what goal I'm pursuing, it becomes so much easier. So the next point is always have the bigger picture in mind in whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be, the bigger picture doesn't have to be for a lifetime. Sometimes it's for a. And I say this because at that point, my bigger picture was, I want to understand more about this industry. I want to understand more about how different things function, because I come from a totally different background, and I can only take what I know and use it in where I am. So I went into SAPICS, and what a wonderful journey that was for me. And I'm not saying that because this is a SAPICS Connect platform, but I'm saying this because it is genuinely true. And at SAPICS, I was doing more of the things that I loved. I was engaging with people. I was talking to people. I always say my job at SAPICS was educating, because I was educating people about the association. I was engaging with people through the different conversations and the talks, the events that we were doing. I was seeing how the industry works by going to the events, obviously as the event coordinator, but I was being exposed to this professional industry that I had a little bit of an understanding of, but now I was also putting in everything that I was passionate about. So sometimes you are in a place that all your expertise speak to, I don't believe your expertise speak to one specific industry. I believe that if you are able to be resilient and agile and change the way that you think and do things, you'll find that everything that you've learned actually works in every situation that you're in. So always have a bigger picture in mind. And if sometimes it means starting small, so that you can work yourself up again, it's great. But as you work yourself up, you're reminded of things that you have to learn again. You learn new things, you start relearning, and also you start unlearning certain habits and certain things that you picked up along the way while you were going through the motions. And this also goes for when you have your own company, right? Always keep the bigger picture in mind, because sometimes you might have a project and it's not really the project that you are looking to have in the future, but that project will give you the experience and also the ability to be able to problem solve in other projects. Right, and the next slide is try something new. And I truly, truly believe in trying something new. One of the things I always say is when you try something new, if you like it, there is something new you can pursue. If you don't, you have tried something new anyways, and you haven't really lost out on much. So I went overseas to teach, and I am still here. And it's been an interesting journey. Some days are good. Some days are not so good. Some days I'm just like, I'm packing my bags. I'm going home. Bye. Because it really is it's a new country. It's the way I always say, China is a different world. And China is a different world. And I say that because a lot of things are done differently. I don't have as much freedom. I don't speak the language well. So some of the things are really harder to navigate. Fortunately, I do live in a very metropolitan city. So it is easier for me to navigate things here with just English, because a lot of people speak English. And one of my lessons when I came to China, I was working at Santova Logistics. I'm name dropping all these companies. So I worked at Santova Logistics, and let's steer back before. So I worked at Santova after SAPICS. I left SAPICS because in my heart of hearts, I knew I wanted to do more. I wasn't sure what more is. I wanted something new. I wanted a new challenge. And I had been in SAPICS and done so many different roles within, but there was still something inside of me that yearned for something else, something more. And I left SAPICS, and I remember at the last SAPICS conference, Kia said to me, "Don't be gone for too long." And this is something I always, don't be gone for too long, because things change and things go on. And I say this because I always have that message at the back of my head and say, things change, don't be gone for too long. And this is why I'm a believer of always educating yourself, always knowing what's happening in different industries, in different companies, because things change. And when things have changed and you want to decide, okay, I want to go back to that point, you want to know what's relevant at that point in time. And if you've got a new interest, great, pursue and grow in that new interest. So when I had my sabbatical, I left SAPICS, I went for a sabbatical, I stopped working for a couple of months. And as us young people like to say, adulting, the realities of adulting kicked in, and I had responsibilities that I had to take care of. And your network determines your net worth. Some people at conference had already approached me that once I get out of my sabbatical, I should give them a ring and we'll have an interview, see if I'm a good fit for the company. And I called companies where I knew what they did is something I had never done before. And that's when I became an air freight imports controller. with no background whatsoever besides the desire and the yearning to learn something new. And for me, if that means I am up 6 to 6 to learn and to watch and to see how people do something, I will watch someone doing something just to see the whole process of how they do it and be like, okay, let me try it. And that is why I say that learning is through anything and everything. And that's what I did at Santova. I got in and I trained. For me, it felt very simple. I needed to understand Incoterms. I needed to understand a whole lot of things that I didn't really have a background in, but because the hunger and the desire to learn was great, I did that. And in a couple of months, I was working on one of their biggest projects. And there was a time when I just decided, let's export ourselves because we've been moving so much. And there was an opportunity that came through for me through a friend, and I decided to pursue it. And that's how I landed in China. Got into China. I've never taught kids. I've volunteered with kids. I've taught English, but I've always done it online and with adults. And just going through the training, I was like, I feel like my heart is here. And this is something that could be easy for me, but it still needs me to work and put in the work in order to be able to be the best teacher that I am able to be. Because also when you are in the workspace, it's always important that you should not be in competition with anyone. You should always be in competition to reach your best self. And that's how it's sometimes easier for me to switch into the next gear and a different new role, because it's always in competition with my best self. What can my best self learn? So one of the things to always think about and always question yourself is, what is my best self wanting? How is my best self going to get to my best self? And that's through trying something new. So I went overseas and I'm in China teaching English. I've unfortunately been out of China once twice. Once was a visit back home to South Africa. Second, was a holiday to Thailand. And then I know one of my friends is on, but the next time we wanted to go to Malaysia, but then Hong Kong riots were happening and literally we had to turn from the airport and go back home. So I haven't traveled as much. And with the pandemic, the movement is limited, but I'm still hoping that I'll be able to spend more time here so that I can just travel Asia and hopefully from Asia travel down to Africa, because there's a couple of African countries that I would like to see before I fully settle back home. I tried river rafting. I mentioned earlier that I like trying outdoor activities. I tried river rafting and kayaking, two things that I really, really enjoy doing now. And the last time I went river rafting, I lost a pair of my glasses. And that was very, very funny because my friend had lost her pair before I lost mine. And instead of taking off my pair, I kept it on, and hold and behold, we went through a very deep dip and I lost my glasses. Lesson learned there, always look at what other people are doing and sometimes learn from other people's mistakes. Sometimes you don't have to go through something in order to know that it is real, it exists. Sometimes it's okay to study people who have gone through the same process, the same pain that you have gone through, and then find a solution according to what they have gone through. You don't have to lose your classes. I tried eating frog. It was delicious-ish, but it tastes like fishy chicken. And so I'll stick to chicken and fish separately. So trying something new, change careers without making my age a factor. It is never too late to try out something new. And this is something that I honestly and truly believe in. Last year, I started the journey of doing my MBA. I'm doing my second year MBA. I'm in my second year of my MBA studies. And that's something that I always keep at the back of my head. I'm just like, yes, you're at this age and the expectation is for you to be doing this, this, and that. But for me, it's a thing of, let's just forget about age. It's a number that's there, but really isn't there, it doesn't exist, but it exists. And I make career moves according to what I feel is the next thing that I want to learn. And I'm doing my MBA because I really want to do more. And we haven't really refined what that more is, but I know it's got more, it's more in the continuing to teach space and also to be able to bring it into Africa, because the more articles you read and the more studies you read, Africa is the future. And it's so beautiful that you are there and you can already start seeing the different changes. And sometimes we can get caught up with what's happening politically, economically, but you still have to have that bigger picture in mind. And for us, South Africans in another country, for a lot of us, the way back home is still, it's still there. And changing slides. Okay, so one of the things that I'll share with you, I have something called Soulful Sundays. And I call it, get into the habit of checking in with yourself. So Soulful Sunday, I try and switch off. And I know this is not, a lot of people aren't able to switch off from the world, switch off from your cell phones. There's families, there's children. But if you can find some time in your week or once a month that you can dedicate to yourself. And basically, these are the questions that I ask myself. They're very simple questions. They do change over time. Like one time, my favorite color was pink and now it's blue. So what's your favorite food? And these aren't very hard questions, but you can add in whatever questions that you want so that it helps you better reflect on your life. This is the same thing I also do to better reflect on the job that I'm working in, so that even when I get discouraged and I have a long day at work, I'm able to reflect, why am I doing this? What are the pros of doing this and what are the cons? Then I weigh them. When the pros become greater than the cons, I stick it out. I learn what I still need to learn. When the cons become greater, then I know that I've reached the ceiling and now it's time to move on to the next best thing. One of the last 4 questions are very impactful questions, because it's, if your life ended today, what is the one thing everyone who knows you would say about you? What would you want them to say? Why wouldn't or couldn't they say what you would like them to say? And the last question that I always ask myself is, what do you want? And this changes from weekly. One day it could be, I want to change the world. One day it could be, I want to be the president. I still want to be a diplomat. Somewhere deep inside my heart, there's still a space inside of me that wants to be a diplomat. And sometimes it just could be, I want to have a puppy that I can cuddle with. So these are very self-reflective questions, but they're also questions that help you to be able to understand and self-actualize so that you become the best version of yourself at any time. Then have mentors, and they don't have to know you. And I say this because one of my mentors, Sis Kolo knows me. She's one of my big, I'm such a fan of her, and she's just
Has Ayanda disappeared for everybody?
Yeah.
Looks like
frozen.
She completely disappears. Ayanda, can you hear us? You have dropped off the screen. Okay, we can't see or hear you.
Maybe I'm not sure if it's going to be good for you. Maybe just to check out and check in again.
No, the technology challenges we face, huh?
You're having issues on your side.
So while everybody's trying, hello everyone, while we're trying to get Ayanda back. Oh, looks like she just moved. Did she move? I've got a quick question that I would like you all to think about and give me an answer. You can just pop it in the chat.
No, you're busy talking about your mentor, Sister.
Cindy, you need to mute.
We can hear you. Would you travel to Zambia to go to a face-to-face conference next year? We'll sort Cape Town out later, but for now, would you travel to Zambia for a face-to-face conference next year, knowing what you know now about COVID and injections and all the rest of it?
Pop in again.
So you can either shout out, but Cindy, we can hear you.
Using the second link I sent you, eh?
Cindy.
I don't see.
If we talk more loudly, then we can't hear Cindy. No, that's the trouble with life, is we can't mute Cindy.
Somebody co-host, they can mute her. I'm not a co-host, I can't.
Can you hear me? Hi, I can hear you now.
Gugu, are you co-host?
I can hear you on the cell phone, but I can't hear you on the
mute Cindy?
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much.
So James, that was not a definite no. That was just the caps were on. Kind of mixed reactions there.
Pretty much. With two keyboards in front of me, sometimes I get confused as to which one I should be using.
Okay, so definitely mixed reactions there. I just think everybody's so desperate to travel. Everybody's so desperate.
Yeah, but the question is, are we desperate to travel for our own leisure, or are we desperate to travel for work? And I think, you know, from my Geneva, yes, absolutely. Hawaii, why not? But it's that Hawaii to go on holiday, but Zambia to go to a conference. It's like, I think the days of traveling around the world for conferences, we're going to have to work very hard to justify that sort of expense, which is not great considering event management is a big part of my life. And online is 10 times more stressful.
No, it definitely is. I think I'd rather have sore feet than bulging eyes, which is what you end up with after a virtual conference. Oh, it's definitely not easier. That much is true. Do we have, I saw Ayanda pop back on the...
Can I bring my wife? Yes, you can bring your wife.
She popped back onto the screen and she's gone again. Okay, so let me ask the question. What, so far out of the session that Ayanda has given us, how many of you have got a takeaway from the session that you can actually go and apply straight away? Because this is what it's all about. It's all about learning, growing, developing. Yeah. Soulful Sunday, yes, I think it's good to reflect. Network, yeah, we can't stress that enough. It's often the not what you know, but who you know. Very much so in our profession, but I think it's pretty much in any profession that we say that. So yes, make sure you've got your networking going, and SAPICS is the place for that. So if you're not part of our network as yet, you definitely need to get on board with it. Yeah, I can't see. I would have thought that there would have been a better internet connection coming from that side of the world than what we've got over here.
Sorry, I'm trying to assist Ayanda here. So I never realized my microphone was on earlier, trying to assist her. So my apologies for that, everyone.
We will find a way to make it quiet.
At least we knew you hadn't run away.
I wouldn't dare.
Is everybody on this call in supply chain management? Or do we have people that are outside of that circle? There are quite a few names that I don't recognize here.
Actually, that comment of Jacques about your network matters. He's so right on lots of different levels. It matters internet and it matters people.
Yeah, no, that's a double one, eh? Oh, Khumalo was an outsider. We have a Khumalo on our board, and I thought that he was undercover there under just Khumalo, because normally his full name comes up. But it's good to have you on the call.
Tanya, I'm always amused at people who refer to it as supply chain management versus supply chain.
Yeah, these are these are the challenges. These are the challenges. It's supply chain management. And then you've got supply management, which is typically your procurement side.
So I don't know why I always look at supply chain management as being the terminology government uses for procurement, where supply chain is what we do.
Yeah, no, I would disagree with you, because we use the term supply chain management, and supply management would be your procurement. Oh, here is our Ayanda. She is back.
Am I back?
You're back. Take it away.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I was saying to Cindy just now, what would life be without problems, right? With all our internet problems that we are having. But I always say problems are an opportunity. So it's an opportunity for me to tell my landlord my Wi-Fi is really, really bad and he has to find me stronger Wi-Fi, because I'm about to start online school again and I can't afford these problems. So also it was an opportunity for everyone to have a conversation going. As much as I was disconnected, I could hear conversations happening there and some catch-ups. So challenges are always opportunities. So let me share my screen. And Tanya, can you remember where I stopped this time?
I don't know if I ended where everybody else ended, if we lost it all at the same time.
She was chatting about her first mentor, Miss Motswasele. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So this is a mentor that I have a relationship with, and we speak, we check up on each other on Facebook and Instagram with just how are things, what are you doing? And actually the quote, make happily after a career, is something that she sent me when I left and came to China, because I was at a point where a lot of people were telling me I'm going to hate it here and it's the wrong decision for my career. My career is at a trajectory and just leaving was not going to be good for my career. And she said to me, make happily after a career. And it's something till this day that I live by, where it's everything that is the next thing, as long as it's got the possibility, or as long as it brings me happiness, then the job description is not necessarily something that I'm stuck on. So that's a mentor that I know. Oprah Winfrey, we all know her. She doesn't know me. I still see her as a mentor. I've followed her career for the longest time, and I'm sure a lot of people have. And when I say they don't have to know you, but these are people that you look up to and that inspire you. Amanda is also someone that she's in South Africa. She has a podcast called Vastly Sage. She normally talks to a lot of business people, and they are business people in South Africa. So it's always invigorating to just listen to success stories, listen to people's challenges, and also how they're navigating those challenges in South Africa. And someone that also I stalk on LinkedIn I don't want to say stalking, but I look them up once in a while to see what they're doing, because for me, if there's something that I always will remember, and I remember about Kia, is she is able to walk into a room and command it. And that is something that I would one day would like to be able to do, and be able to have different conversations, but also just be so grounded in what my beliefs are. And when I've interacted with her, I feel like she was always going for big things, and she probably still is. And so that's someone that I will look up on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on wherever online, Google, well, you can't Google really in China unless you have a VPN, but bing.com and see what you have. So nobody knows I have a VPN. This is between us, people of South Africa. This is how I connect with the outside world, but nobody needs to know that. So have mentors and have people that you look up to. Look at what they are doing. One of my super quotes is, success leaves clues. And this is something that was drilled into me for a very, very long time. Success leaves clues. Look at what successful people are doing and see how you can emulate it into your own life and your own daily habits, and see how it works for you. And you become a successful person for somebody to look at you, and your success will also give them clues on what they should do and what they shouldn't do going forward. So we've just got a couple, sorry about all the internet connections, but back in South Africa, I used to have something called hikes with Ayans or runs with Ayans. And so I will open up to any questions, and we can call it conversations with Ayans. If you'd like to connect, that is my LinkedIn as well as my email address. I've now realized certain email addresses go straight into my junk mail. So now I am actually making an effort to check my junk mail because I didn't do that before. But now we know to do that. So are there any questions that anybody would like to ask? Okay, I'm going.
Everybody's quiet now.
Hopefully not disconnected.
No, there have to be questions out there.
When are you coming home again, Ayanda?
When we are able to travel to South Africa. So currently it's very difficult to leave China and come back to South Africa because of the cases still back at home. So as soon as we are able to travel back, I will be one of the first people to book a flight home to visit, because it's been a while. I haven't been home since December 2019. So it's yeah, soon, Jenny, soon. I told you when you're, okay, let's give a nicer answer. When you're ready to retire.
Next week, how's that?
Do you still listen to your power songs in the morning? Yes, I do. Every morning I wake up and I have, now it's gospel. I have a gospel playlist that I listen to, and it gets me into my mood for the day. And I actually, I had a quote this week on my other social media, and it's basically, I start my day and I'm like a balloon. I inflate myself so much that I'm so high, and whatever tries to deflate the balloon, at the end of the day, as long as I don't hit the ground smashing. So some things inflate the balloon further, some things deflate it, but the power songs for me are my balloon inflators. What is failure for you, and how have you learned from those experiences? Failure for me is a lot of different things. It's not reaching, it's not doing my best, one. And that's why with everything that I do now, I try and do my best. And also failure is also not living my truest self and not listening to my deep voice within. Because sometimes you know something is not going to work out right, but you still try and do it anyways, and then it doesn't work out. So failure is not listening to my intuition that's trying to prepare me and that knows what's next. And I learned from different experiences. I learned from good things. I learned from bad things. The current failure that I was experiencing at work was when I renegotiated my contract. I didn't really negotiate it the way I wanted to. And because of the current climate in China with international teachers, I got another opportunity to be able to renegotiate my contract. So that failure, because because I accepted what was given to me. I didn't fight it. I didn't argue. I just accepted. That, luckily for me, I got another opportunity to redo that whole scenario. And I was actually able to now get into a negotiating agreement. If there's something I've always told myself is I'm better with negotiating things for other people, but not necessarily myself. And now I'm learning how to negotiate things for myself. So always learning. James, there's still a lot of life that still has to be experienced, but thank you. And constantly always learning.
It amazes me that at your young age, you've had the opportunity, you're living in China, you've picked up some more words than I have. It's just brilliant that you have the opportunity to do something like this, and that you've grabbed it and just moved and done this. I think a lot of people in the world would be very, very scared to do what you do. It really is amazing.
Fail forward. I think, yeah, fail forward. And that goes with a lot of things, right? It's fail forward. And that's what I've tried to do. There's a lot of things that I still want to do that I have not done because I still don't have the grit for that thing to fail forward. But there's tiny stuff where there's that thing that just, you get to a point where you pushed and you push forward. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, career-wise? Career-wise, I would like to have a consulting company. And I would also like to direct something. And that's one of my inspirations of doing my MBA, because I want to have that background and that experience and the exposure to be able to take something and direct it into a new frontier. So that's what I see myself doing in the next 5 years. Where? Hopefully in South Africa. But if Dubai or any other place calls my name, I will go, just for the experience. And yes, thank you very much, Phumzile. I'm glad it was. And as I said in the beginning, if there was something, for me, the takeaway for anyone is, I hope if there's something that you've been holding on to, an idea, a dream, or you just needed a kickstart for something, that you just got the reminder that you can do it. And nothing is concrete. You literally have the pen, and there's a song by Natasha Bedingfield that says, the rest is still unwritten. And that's also one of my favorite songs, because at the end of the day, when everything is said and done, that day has been written, everything has happened, but the following day is still unwritten, and you get to make the changes, you get to dream bigger, you get to set the tone at the beginning of the day of how you want to write this story. So yes, I'm going to get that song. Do listen to it. It's a very nice song. I will not sing for anybody. All right. What does it feel like living in a city that has a bigger population than the whole of SA? Crowded. So depending on the areas that I navigate through, right? So when I take the metro in the morning, which I don't do anymore. So when I worked at SAPICS, there was a long time where I was staying in Soweto, and the SAPICS offices are in Midrand. So I was in traffic for a very, very, very long time. And this is something that I do in China. I will work, wherever I work, I want to stay less than 5 kilometers away from work so that I'm not dependent on public transportation. So I don't take the metro often, except for visiting friends or social events. But before, I used to have trainings. My previous job, I used to have trainings at headquarters, and I'd have to take the metro in the morning. And when you feel it's being in a space with so many people and also you stand out. Well, I stand out. I'm very Black, and there's Chinese people all around me, and people are taking photos of you. There's a lot of culture. There's a lot of culture shock that happens with just being here. But with time, if you're an open-minded person, it's easy to navigate those things. Sometimes you have moments where you're thinking, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore because of those small nitty-gritties. But the bigger picture, pros and cons, is always greater. So sometimes I feel it, sometimes I don't. A lot of times, because Shanghai is so metropolitan, a lot of the places that I also go to are surrounded by a lot of expats. So it's been very nice meeting people from different parts of the world and engaging with them and seeing what's happening on their sides of the world, especially now that we are able to do offline gatherings. Any notes you can share to pass SAPICS exam? One of the things that I remember very well, so I tried to do the basics of supply chain management. It didn't end in tears, but it also didn't end in happiness, right? But one of the things that my lecturer or trainer rather always said was, SAPICS exams are not about cramming. In varsity, you do a lot of cramming, and SAPICS exams are more of, are you able to execute what you have learned? So once you've gotten the theory, are you able to take that theory and put it into real life practice? So if you can study, and always when you get to a case study or something, think of your current workplace, think of how you are able to execute that, then it shows an understanding of the work. Tonya, is that still the case?
Yeah, I did an exam many, many, many years ago, and I haven't had the guts to take it any further.
Yeah, so I think also
and that you can apply it.
Yes, it really is a lot about application. But if you can go to the SAPICS events, that you'll meet so many people who are CPIM or CSCP certified. And what my experience has always been, people are willing to share. And it's that networking where people will give you advice and also tell you in true honesty how many times they failed the exam before they got the certification. So sometimes that also, it makes you study. And when you get your fail, then you understand that you'll do better the second time around. A lot of people don't get their CSCP or CPIM first take. They sometimes have to do it again. So talk to a lot of people in the community, connect with people on LinkedIn. A lot of people put in their certifications on their profile bios. Add those people, engage with them, and see if they can give you any advice that's relevant for today. What would you say to someone who has been playing around with the idea of moving abroad to start a totally different career? Do it. That's what I would say. Do it. And firstly, right, there's a lot of opportunities in South Africa. And now that I am here, I always have this conversation that I'm starting to understand why there's almost like zero crime in China, besides the death sentence for stuff. But I'm also understanding because everything here is a job. And for me, that's also one of those things about just education is everywhere, where you start looking at different countries and you understand what makes those countries able to have the things that they have. And then starting then to make those different changes in your workplace, in your environment, in your community, etc. If somebody wanted to come and start a different career in a totally different country, I'd say do it, but know why you're doing it, because the culture shock might just make you take the next flight back home. Know why you're doing it, and your why needs to be greater than the money. Don't chase the money. Chase the experience, chase the opportunity, chase the exposure, but do not chase the money, because if you are constantly chasing money, you are going to get to a place of unhappiness. And regardless of how much money you have, it cannot, that is a true saying, it cannot buy you happiness. Although it's better to cry in a Ferrari than on a bicycle, right? But it always, the bigger picture has to be, what's your why for doing it? What is it that you need to, sometimes you need to get out of your environment in order to be able to go learn and do something in a different environment. So it's like, people say, I always say one of the reasons I'm still going to stay here another year is because I want to complete my MBA. And I'm in an environment that supports me doing my MBA. I don't have family gatherings. I don't have the pressure to start a family back at home. There's a lot, I've got, on a very good day, I really have good internet. On a very, very good day, I have very good internet. Also, the time zone works very well for me. So if I'm having my classes in Boston online or in London or Dubai, being here and being able to work and still have those classes, the schedule works for me. So that is currently my why. And that is bigger than everything else that happens. Yes. All right. I think that's it. And I hope this was useful to everybody. Thank you so much to SAPICS for always having me in their heart. And I know a lot of people still call Jenny this, but for me, she was always Mama SAPICS. And and just to always have had this relationship with her has been awesome. Where also you've worked for an organization, but you're still connected to the organization. Not a lot of organizations are able to do that, right? And if you have an organization or you work in an organization, try to have that relationship where people
She gone again.
Gone again.
Oh no. Well, I don't know if we're going to get her back now. I think it might take a while. So I think we will say that's a wrap, but I think that was a truly inspirational session. There's so much passion and so much experience to share. And I really do concur that you should follow your passion, where's your heart, because, you know, yes, it's great to have the money. And like she says, it's better to cry in a Ferrari, but you also don't want to get up every day and go to a job that you despise. Do something that you love, that makes you feel alive, that you know that you're making a difference. So I think on that note, thank you for all spending your time with us this afternoon. A big thank you to Ayanda. Now that she's disappeared, we'll send her a really big shout out note of thanks. But I hope that the session was valuable to you, and we look forward to seeing you all again very soon. So thanks for joining us.